Hello guys, this is the next part of tutorial videos dedicated to inventory system, and previously we have made some fixes, and now let's add an action sheet for an equipped item so that we can do something by right clicking on it here. So first, I think that it will be easy to do. The main problem is that when our VB container creates this widget here on event initialized, we don't bind event on right button. So here let's bind event on right mouse button. And let's create event, and we're just gonna select on right mouse button. Now we're gonna select create a matching function, and let's call it on right mouse on equipped item. And from here we're gonna call on right mouse button. And we have to provide a widget. Widget is gonna be our widget that we're creating. Let's open event initialized and promote it to some variable. Let's promote it to variable and call it VB item widget, like this. And on right mouse button on equipped item, we're gonna provide a widget, VB item widget, and provide an item by itself, item. Compile, save. Now it should work, but there will be one issue. Let's equip it. We have equip button, but it is already equipped and nothing will happen. And also throw away doesn't work. So we need to change action sheet depending on the state of an item. So to do that, let's change our inventory. Let's make some changes in our inventory components. And first change is gonna be in initialize function. Here we are creating our secret pouch and we don't have any actions on it. That's fine. Well, now let's find a function where we are equipping item at slot. It's function equip item at slot, and we are just setting an item. But in this case, we're gonna also change an action sheet for this item. So first, let's add an action like deequip. Let's find folder actions, not here. Let's find where is our enumeration? Interactable object action, and add one more action called deequip. And close it. Now let's open our function equip item at slot back, and here we are setting an item. Now let's change actions. So let's how can we do that? We cannot set any actions to an item because actions are private, so let's make some changes. Let's open BC container item object. And here let's create some function called replace action with action. So we will have two inputs. Action 1 of type E container item action, and action 2 of the same type. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get actions and find action 1. Also we have to ensure that it contains this action. So first let's add a branch and check if an array of actions contains action 1. So if false, then we're doing nothing. If true, then we are getting these actions and set array and calling set array element, passing an index from result of find function and an item to set as action to save, compile. Now let's open our inventory component. And for secret pocket we don't have an actions, at least in my case, but for short and for every other part of equipment I'm gonna call replace action with action. I'm gonna replace equip with deequip. Where is deequip? Did I add it to? Yes, here it is. Interactable object action. Oh, that's not that action that we are using. It's of type container item action. So this function should have an input and output. Where is it? Replace items with action should have another types. Container item action. Let's change it. Container item action. And the same here. Container item action. Save, compile. Okay. Now it should work. Let's refresh this node. No, not working. Replace actions with action. Container item action. Container item action. Oh, I have added the equip not in this enumeration. So let's add the equip here. The equip. I think previous enumeration was just my experiment and you may not have it. So now, after I have added, I can call change equip to the equip and call the same for short and for pants. Well, now we have to do the same when we are finally de-equipping item. So let's open the equip item at slot. And here we're gonna get this local de-equip item. After that, and call replace action with action. We're gonna replace de-equip with equip. And let's connect it. Compile and save. Now let's see how it will work. So here we have equip, here we have nothing because we didn't tell our widget what to display, what text to display in this case. So let's open our user interface folder, actions, and action button, graph, and here we have a switch. And for the equip, let's type the equip. Save, compile. Well, now the equip will be displayed, and now let's open an inventory component and implement a function to the equip an item. So let's open our our container actions and function handle container item action. Here we will have one more pin, the equip. If you don't see it, click on this small arrow. And in case of the equip, what we're gonna do? We're gonna check if our inventory can store this item in it. So we're gonna call can add item to inventory and pass item. So if we can add an item to inventory, then we're gonna call add item to inventory or add item to container. If true, then we can add item to container and plug everything like that. and index goes here. In case of false, depends on you. You may wanna drop an item on Earth, or you may just don't let a user to take his clothes off. I'm gonna drop items. If you don't want the user to let turn de-equip their clothes, then you're just doing nothing here. I'm gonna call drop item and pass item. Wait, drop item is an event. Drop item from inventory. Okay, and what do we have to do? Well, why do we? Well, we should not call everything from here. We can just call the equip item at slot, by the way. And slot is gonna be get item, get slot. So save, compile. Now let's try it. So equip, de-equip, de-equip. It's not working. At the breakpoint. Equip. De-equip. Well, we are not reaching this switch because it's not called. So this is not called, and I think we have one more switch somewhere in our actions. Actions for each. Colon action selected. Well, and our inventory by itself is handling our action selection. On action selected. We'll have to check whether it is called. Well, it is called. Action is de-equip. We're calling handle. Then it goes here, and looks like okay. So the problem is that find item is not returning true for us. So there is an issue in function called find item, and it returns us false. So it asks get all container items and checks if at least one of the container items contains this one. But if we're searching for a container item, it will return us a false. So here we gonna change the function a little bit. Let's move it to the right. Here we're gonna add a branch and check if this item is equal to item. Get item. So if false, then we are continuing. If true, then we are returning an item. Then we're gonna return cell nothing, container is itself, and the result is true. Container, let's plug in container. Index is itself. Also, let's connect this. Compile, save, find item, and we need. Why do we passing a cell here? Oh, cell is needed for a few variants, but not for this one. So now it should work. I hope. Equip, de-equip. So yeah, now we can equip and de-equip item by right mouse button. Also, as you can see, if I touch, for example, secret pocket, a small square appears, and even every placeholder. It tries to show us an actions list, but there are no actions there, so we're gonna open our inventory widget, this one, navigate to show actions for widget, and here we have to check before presenting a widget somewhere, and every computation before creation of this widget, we're gonna add a branch and show it only if condition is true. And condition is gonna be actions not empty. If they are not empty, then we're showing our widget like this. And now a little square will not appear. Oh. Okay. Well, now we have to be able to open a container from this short right from inventory without equipping it. So we have to add one more action called open or search, depending what you like more. So let's open a place where we have our enumeration, eContainer item action, and add one more action called open. And every container will have this action. So we have to open our, but only containers that is not equipped now should contain this action. So only the equipped container can have open action. And if a short is equipped, then we should not see a variant of opening. So let's open our BC container item object again. And we have created replace action with action. And now we can also add one more function called remove action with input action, and duplicate this function and call it add action. Also, for add action, let's add an input index of type integer. Well, let's start from remove action. Here we're gonna get actions and just call remove item action. Well, for add actions, we're gonna get actions and insert item. At index action. We're doing insert and not end because we need to provide an index. If we will call set array element, then it will replace an existing element at this index. And insert will move part of array forward, so it is better to use. So now let's open our inventory component and open our equip item and open our the equip item at slot. So after the equipment of an item, after the equipment of an item, well, let me think a little bit. Maybe we can do it a little bit easier. Well, no. Okay. After the equipment of an item, let's get local dequip item and call add action. Action open at index 0. After equipment of an item, equip item at slot. Why did we do it like that here? So I don't know. Let's disconnect everything here. We can do it normally. Here, let's add one more sequence node. Connect on inventory update to second one, and for the first one, we're gonna call get item, replace action with action, like this. So that's a normal way to do that. Well, and right after that, we're gonna get an item and call remove action, open. Save compile. Well, now let's open a widget for our action button, VB container action button. We have already opened it, and type a name for open action. Let's call it open, save, save compile, and let's test it. Equip, deequip, open. Well, unfortunately there is an issue. Now, right after picking up this item, open action doesn't appear here, and we need to fix it. Let's open our inventory component. Or not, no. We should not open inventory component. Let's open our object, our short, blueprint of a short, open the construction script. And here we're constructing an item. And let's just add one more pin to an actions and make it open. And can I replace it with... no. So let's make first open, equip, throwaway, and description, like this. And now it will work fine. Okay, equip, deequip, equip. Well, now is the easiest part is done, so now we have to be able to show it. And how we're gonna do that? We're gonna ask our inventory to show part of widget. Let me think a little bit how we're gonna do that, because I am doing it from scratch and I don't know how to do it right now. Well, so the way to do that is to tell our inventory widget to show grid for some item, some separate item. So let's open a widget for a whole inventory. This one. Open a graph and let's create a function and call it open container. Let's add an input here, item. And let's make it BC container item. Save compile. Now let's open our inventory component back and open a function handle container item action. Here we have an open pin and we gonna implement it. So we're gonna get our inventory widget and call this function open container connected open container. Well, let me check how we're handling our actions. Action for item, multicast. Okay, we're gonna call open container and get item. Also, we should do it only on owner, so we're gonna get character. Oh, no, not character. We're gonna check if a character owning this component is locally controlled, but this check is only needed for replicated implementation. So now we are calling open container function and let's open widget of our inventory and we have to implement this. And before implementation of this function, we have to create a visual representation of our container. We can use our widget blueprint container for that, but let's create a new one because, for example, in my case, I want a container to have a close button, maybe filter button, a title in another place, not like in widget blueprint container. So that's why I'm gonna create a new widget, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, and let's call it VB, opened container. Now let's open it, and now let's design it. First, let's add size box here and set it minimum desired width to 100. So its width will always be 100 or more, and the same for height, like this. Save and compile. Well, now what do we gonna have in our widget? Let's set desired, or let's set it custom on screen and set it to 200 on 200 and design as a small square. So we're gonna have few borders. We're gonna have a background border at first. So let's add it here and change its color to something like solid red for now to be able to ensure that our borders are correct, and change paddings for content to 0 for now. So what are we gonna have here also? In this border we're gonna have a top border with title and close button and then our rows. So we need to add few items. Let's add a vertical box here, vertical box inside our border. It is scaled with 0 paddings. So let's first is gonna be another border. Let's inside of this border we're gonna have a canvas panel with 0 paddings. And for border we have an auto size. Okay. Well, in our canvas panel we're gonna have a text. Text is gonna be aligned to the left center with 0,5 alignment on Y, so it is centered. And well, let's change the background of a border to some dark color, like this. Select text back, set size to content for text, set position Y to 0, and let's set font to regular, maybe 8. And for text, let's, for example, name it Old Leather Short, like this. Well, we need to add some padding from the left, or change the position X. Let it be 5. And position from top also 2. Well, well. What can we do here? Well, let's select this canvas panel, right click on it and wrap with size box. And set this size box minimum desired height to 20, 10, 20, 15 to 15, or even bigger a little bit, 18. Well, here's our title. Let's call it txt item name and make it a variable. And we need a cross button here on the right side inside our canvas panel. Let's search for a button. Drag it into our canvas panel. Set it anchored to right center. Alignment 1 on X and 0,5 on Y. And position X and Y to 0 or maybe 5 or -5. Well, let's set its size to 18 on 18. And change its color, background color to some red color, like this. Copy this hex color, open normal color and outline settings and change outline and remove outline. Set width of outline to 0. Well, it is still visible, by the way. Let's select outline color and change color of outline to this one. So now it is invisible, but well, it looks a little bit strange. Well, with one width, okay. Let's set corner radius not to 444. Let's decrease it a little bit. Let's set it 1, 1, 1. No, 2, 2, 2. Okay. Now we're gonna let's decrease its size to 15 on 15. We have to provide an image. Let's search for a cross image. Maybe here it is. We have some default Unreal cross texture. I don't know what it is. Here it is, and we need to change the tint color for our image. Also, I think that it doesn't have, well, it have an alpha channel, by the way. Draw as tint, tint, tint. Mm-hmm. Also, let's set normal padding to 0 and press paddings to 0. Well, what's the problem with the cross? Let's open image size and set it to 15 on 15. 10 on 10. What happens here? It doesn't change anything. Well, I don't understand why our image is drawn like this. Why its size here is like this. Oh, that's because it is a style of button and not an image. So let's search for an image. I'm sorry. Search for an image and add it to a button. Here it is. Let's set its size to 15 on 15. And also to be able to display an image normal, let's select button and check size to content. So for image we can set this cross image. Set paddings to 0 or maybe 2. No, let them be 0. And we can change tint color. Well, it is already white, by the way. Well, tint is already white. Okay, but we only have such red cross. You can change it to your own image if you want. Uncheck size to content and change normal paddings to, for example, 1 and press padding to 1. So here's our button. It doesn't look very cool, but I'm not a UI user interface designer. So let's call it btn close, make it variable. So now we are finished with top border, and inside of our vertical box we're gonna add one more border. Or we don't need to add one more border, we can just add vertical box here, vertical box inside our vertical box. like this. Well, this one's gonna be auto size. We should have some paddings from left, right, and the bottom. Let them be 5, 5, and 5. And let's call it VB rows uh, rows box and make it a variable. Save, compile. Now let's open event graph, and I have already added but forgot to record it on the video. Inventory component of type of our inventory component, that is instance editable, exposed on spawn and private as in variable in this widget. And the same for an item, that is BC container item, and cell size, that is cell size. All of them are instance editable and exposed on spawn and private. So now in event pre-construct we have to construct our rows and add them to our vertical box. We have already done that in our widget blueprint container, in this one. Let's open it and open event graph on initialized, and here we have such logic. We have an item getting rows, looping through each row, creating a widget of row, binding some event, we're gonna skip that for now, adding constructed widget to vertical box, setting horizontal alignment, adding spacer, setting its size, and adding spacer to vertical box. Let's copy this, open our widget blueprint, open container and paste it here and connect it. So we need to change VB rows because now this variable is called VB rows box, connected to a target where it is needed. The same here when we're adding a spacer. Save and compile. Now let's open designer, size box, border, and so on. Well, now let's open our widget for an inventory, and here, okay, here we have to create this widget. Let's create widget, and it's gonna be of type VB opened container, plugin item, plugin inventory component, and plugin size. Now, next we have to add this widget somewhere. We're gonna get our root canvas. This is this canvas. We already have a variable and call add child to canvas and plug in this widget as a content. It will give us canvas slot, and we can change the position of a canvas slot. Let's call set position to last actions widget position. Also, I don't remember if I have shown it previously in the video. This last actions widget position is set it up in function on action selected. Here is how it is set it up, and it is set it up before handle action for item. Now let's check it. Let's start and see what will be shown. Okay, we're already in sales, but as you can see, our size of our container is incorrect. So let's open our VB opened container, and when we're adding items to this vertical box, something goes wrong. So now, to fix it, let's select our size box and wrap it with canvas panel. Here it is. Select size box and check size to content. Also for size box, let's set an anchor to middle center. And now We can open a container, and as you can see, background is aligned correctly, but our cells, as you can see, I'm not sure if it is visible in stream, are a little bit offset to the left, and they are not centered perfectly. So now we have to fix it. And to fix it, let's open our rigid blueprint container row. I have debugged it a little bit with brush color, with checking the color of a row. And what is the problem? Here in event preconstruct, we're looping through every cell and creating a cell widget, then adding it to horizontal box, then adding a spacer, and again adding a cell, and so on, so on, so on. And what will happen for a last cell? So last cell will be added and a spacer will be added right after it. And a spacer for a last cell should not be added either as a spacer before a first cell. So we have to do this part only if our array index is not last index. So let's add a branch and construct spacer and add it only if some condition will be true. How we gonna check this? We're gonna get an index and check if it is equal or not. If it is less than length of cells minus 1. Length minus 1. And let's add it to this branch. Compile, save, and let's play. So now they are perfect correctly, but wait, what? Why this happened? If our array index that we're currently working with is not last. Well, length minus 1 is the last index. So let's check if this array index is less than last index. How can it happen? Well, I think that we have to, let's open our row, and we're only if an index is less than our last index, then we're adding a spacer. How it works. We have two cells. For 0 cell, it creates 0 cell and adds spacer, then creates cell 1 and doesn't add spacer. So maybe the size of a spacer is too small. Let's increase it from 5 to 7. But I don't understand. Container row 15. Well, the problem is not in spacer. The problem is of another type. So what if we will connect both true and false? Well, the problem is I think that I have broken something. Let me find what it is. Oh, I think that is because I have changed the color of my row without, and when I have reversed it back, I didn't change in opacity. And now it should work fine. That's only an issue from my side. And now you can see they are centered horizontally correctly, but now they are centered vertically incorrectly. And that's because we're doing this, we are making the same issue when we're layouting a container, both widget blueprint container and both widget blueprint opened container. Let's open a graph. And here we're also adding a widget in for each loop and adding a spacer, but we should not add it for a last index. So we're gonna get these rows, get last index. We're doing this in open container widget. And we're gonna add spacer only if array index is less than last index. Let's add a branch here and connect it here. Now let's do the same for widget blueprint container. Let's open it, move all this logic a little bit down, and we're gonna get last index, get last index, and check if array index is less than last index. And before construct spacer, we're gonna add a branch. If true, then we're adding a spacer. Compile, save, and let's start. Now let's open it, and now everything works fine. So let's open our widget blueprint open container. And you may mention that we have a little bit space to our cells from bottom, but don't have it from top. That's because we have added the paddings for our vertical box only for bottom. Let's add 5 to top, and now it will look perfectly. Now, when we are sure that everything is fine, we can change background color of our border from red to something dark with 0.8 alpha, for example. Well, now we can open an inventory for our item. Also, as you can see in Tarkov, it has few lines here that it has some border. So let's add border also, because it really helps us to define where the borders of this inventory are located. Let's open this VB opened container, open event graph, and override the function on paint. Here we're gonna go draw line, or draw box, position size brush, and draw lines. Maybe we can use draw lines function, I'm not sure. Well, here we can use draw lines function. Let's use it. We have to draw 4 lines. And let's make this points array, make array. And we need 8 points. Let's connect it, connect the context, connect it to return node. Well, for first, 0 is going to be start of a line and 1 is going to be the end of a line. Y is going to be a width of our whole canvas. So it's going to be a width over size box by itself, so we cannot get it. We can get cached geometry. Get cached geometry for self and get size. We can get local size and split it. So this X goes to Y here, because end point is gonna be width of our widget. So in this case, it will draw us a line from 0, 0 to 0, Y. So, or to 0 width. So it will draw us horizontal line here. Next is gonna be from this point to this point. Well, how does it work? Points, line pairs. Each line needs to be 2 separate points in the array. So next is gonna be the same line, X, and X goes here, and while here also X goes to X, not to Y. So 0, 0, then width 0, then width 0 to X or Y. So this will draw us a vertical line from Y0 to Y equal to 8. Next, it will draw us a line from XY to 0, Y, and let's remove this 8 spin. And now it has to draw us from x0 and y to 0, 0. x0, y to 0, 0. Now let's check it. And not what I expected, to be honest. So looks like this get local size is incorrect. Get cache geometry. So let's select our canvas panel, make it a variable. Let's call it cp root canvas. Let's get it here. Plug it to get cache geometry. I thought that it should work, but it doesn't. (100 to 30). Why does it think that local size is 30? Height is 30. And we should get it in an absolute. Split it. Wait, what? Well, first thing that we have to fix, let's select size box here and in anchors set its position, x and position y to 0 and alignment to 0, 5 and 0, 5. Also make it a variable. I've called it SB size box and made it a variable. Next, let's navigate our onPaint function and instead of using get local size of get cache geometry, we're gonna get size box and get desired size. And we're gonna use this size to draw our lines. So from 0, 0 we're gonna draw to xy, then from xy to xy, and well, we have to repeat that we have done previously. Well, now it looks better. It looks like it has a correct size, but it has incorrect positions, by the way. So let's search for where is our function? And let's reverse that we have done a few minutes ago. Let's select our size box and set it anchored to top left corner and set its alignment to 0, 0. And position x and y to 0, 0. Also, I have increased the thickness of the line a little bit. I'm gonna decrease it back to 1. And now border is shown correctly. So now it is more visible. It looks much better than it was before. And what do we have to do now? Well, now we can open a multiple windows. We cannot see them because they're located at the same place, but we can do it, but we shouldn't be able to do it like this. To fix it, let's open our VB inventory component, VB inventory widget, open our open container function, and we have to store a list of containers that are currently shown. So let's create a new variable and call it shown containers of type VB open container. It should be an array and it should be private. Let's move it into open container section. And we're gonna have the same, but for items, let's call it containers items of type BC container item. It also should be an array and should be private. And let's move it to this section. If you don't have section open container, I don't remember I have added it in a video, just edit. Now we can compile save and let's get container shown containers here. In the end of this function and add this widget to this array. Also, we're gonna add container items, get container items here and add an item that we're showing container for. Get item. Also, now we have to check if container is already shown for this item. Well, we're gonna just get container items and check if it contains this item. Add a branch, plug it. If false, then we're creating a new one and showing it. Well, now we will not duplicate these containers. Now, what do we have to do? We have to be able to drag this small window all over the screen so that it will be comfortable for user to change a location of its container and to move some items from one container to another and so on. So to do that, let's open the event graph for this widget and override a function called where is it? On mouse button down. We're gonna override on mouse button down function. And we gonna detect drag only if user started to drag from this top part, because he shouldn't be able to drag it from this part because here he can drag items and so on. So let's select our border here and let's call it B top plank border. Make it a variable. Compile, save, open graph. Let's get this top plank border. And we're gonna get a mouse position, get screen space position of our mouse. And we're gonna convert to local. We're gonna convert screen to local and pass a geometry. Well, now we have window, or maybe absolute to local. I don't remember. Let me check. We're gonna use absolute to local. So not screen to local. Let's call absolute to local. And we will convert the position of our mouse cursor to our widget space. So now we're gonna get our B top length border, and this is a border by itself. To get a position, we have to use it as canvas slot. I'm gonna get I thought that, well, let's try to do it like this, so we'll fix it if it will not work. So let's get our border as a canvas slot and get its position and get size of this part of our widget. So what do we have to check? We have to check if mouse cursor is in bounds of, is between X and Y, in our case 0, 0, and width height of this small widget, so it is in these bounds. So let's open it, and we're gonna get position plus size, and we have to check if our mouse cursor position is bigger, greater than, or equal, or greater. Well, we don't have a reading operator for endpoint vector 2D structure. Unfortunately, don't know why, but we don't. So we're gonna check if X is greater than or equal and Y is greater than or equal than a position of top left corner. So X goes here, Y goes here. So this should be true for both cases, and it should be less than or equal, and Y should be less than or equal than this X and this Y. Bottom right corner also end. Next we have to add a branch. And if both of these, so let's make one more end. If both of these are true, then we can detect drag. Then we're gonna call detect drag if pressed. A left mouse button. Then drag it here. And we have to plug pointer event is gonna be mouse event, get mouse event. If false, then we're gonna return unhandled. Unhandled, that we, so that we are defining that we cannot handle this drag event. Now let's override function on drag detected, and for now let's just print some text like hello, define when drag is detected. Well, what? Okay, we have one issue at least, and we're gonna fix it a little bit later. So nothing happens, nothing is printed. On drag detected. Mouse button down. Maybe we should overwrite not on mouse button down, but on preview mouse button down. I'm not sure. No, on mouse button down. Everything is fine. Container. Open container. Detect drag if pressed. So let's check. Let's check if it is called. False. So it returns us false. Well, that means that our condition is not working properly. Slot as canvas slot, position, size. Well, let me add one more breakpoint and check our computations. Well, size of B top blank border is 0, and it should not be 0. So, where is it? So slot is canvas slot, get size is not working. And get the slot object on the child widget as a canvas slot, allowing to manipulate. Well, so to fix it, let's not use get size for canvas slot, but just call get desired size from a border like this. So now I have checked and on drag detected is called. Well, we need to create drag and drop operation here. It's gonna be a base drag drop operation. And the payload is gonna be widget itself. Get a reference to self, and visual is gonna be also self. And we're gonna just return it, compile, save. Oh, here we can drag it, but if we drop it, nothing is happening. And widget by itself is not removed. Let's open our open container, and after creation of drag and drop operation, we're gonna remove ourselves from parent, remove from parent, like this. And we need to handle a drop on drop, but not here. We have to handle it in our inventory widget. Let's open our inventory widget, search for onDrop function. Here we are only handling when drag drop container item is dropped. Well, if cast failed, then we have to check if payload is widget of container. So let's get payload from an operation and cast to VB opened container on fail. So if true, then what we're gonna do, we gonna add this widget to our canvas panel. So we're gonna get CPU root canvas and add add child to canvas. And we need to provide a position. So we need to call set position and return handled. That we have handled this drag drop operation. Now let's copy it and paste it here, and on cast failed we're going to return false. So what is going to be a position? Let's get our drag visual. Let's get as canvas slot and get position. Get position and paste it here. Save, compile. Now let's try it. Open. No, it's dragged incorrectly because position of this widget is I'm not even sure in which space it is, but so get position and call absolute to local. Let's convert this position from an absolute position to local and use this as position. And to pass a geometry, we're gonna call get cached geometry for a canvas on which we're adding a widget for separate canvas. Compile, save. Let's try it again. Open. No, it's not working. It's not working. So this is incorrect. Okay. Well, let's try to do it in this way. We have a pointer event here, so let's get it here. Get pointer event and get its screen space position. Next, let's call absolute to local and pass get cached geometry for our root canvas and use it as position. It should work now. Let's test it. Okay, it almost worked, but as you can see, when we're starting to drag, it drags from center but dropped at the top left corner. So let's open our widget blueprint open container and function on drag detected. Here we can provide a pivot and let's select mouse down pivot. So it will be dragged from a place where our mouse is currently located. Next, let's open our widget blueprint inventory, but this position is not working for us because us a widget to place its corner, top left corner, the place where mouse position is located. So now we're dragging it correctly, but if we'll drop, then it will go a little bit to the right and to the bottom, like this. Well, to fix it, we have to pass a drag offset at which we're starting our drag. So let's open our VB opened container, and here in payload we're passing ourselves. So for ourselves, let's create a new variable here and call it drag offset. And it's gonna be a vector 2D. And we have to set it. So we need to know an offset in a coordinate space of this widget. So we're gonna get a pointer band and get a screen space position, absolute to local, pass a geometry. And this is gonna be a location of a cursor from which we are starting our drag. And we can set it to a drag offset, like this. And now, let's open our VB Spatial Inventory v2. And here, before setting a position, we can get this widget that we have dragged and get drag offset. We have to subtract it from absolute to local, from a position of a current mouse cursor, and pass it into position. And I hope it will work now. Let's see. Yes, now you can drag it anywhere, as you can see, from a place where you start to drag. Not from a close button, because close button handling mouse button by default. But we can drag this visual. Now if we will click open again, and nothing will be opened. But if we will, I don't know why this happens. We'll fix it later. So I can open one shirt, second shirt, third shirt, and place them as I want. So now let's add the logic to be able to close these containers. So let's open our VB opened container, designer, select a close button, btn close, scroll to the bottom and create onClicked event. Here it is. Let's add an event dispatcher and call it on close. Yes, on close button. And we're just gonna call it here. Compile and save. Let's open our inventory widget back and open a function called open inventory. Here we are creating this widget, adding it to an array, and so on, so on. But before this, we have to bind this event. So let's call bind event on close button. It's function. Yes, it's function. Let's open our VB opened container again. And here we're gonna select dispatcher and add an input widget of type VB opened container and item of type BC container item. And to widget we're gonna plug self, and to item we're gonna plug item like this. Compile save. Let's open back our inventory widget, and for binding let's create event. Don't forget to connect this binding back to HL to canvas, and let's create a matching function. Let's call it on container closed. What we're gonna do here, first we're gonna get our arrays shown containers and get container items and remove this widget from both of them. We're gonna remove widget from shown containers. Then we're gonna remove an item from container items. Well, right after that we're gonna get widget. Get widget. Where is it? Here it is. And remove it from parent like this. Compile, save. Now let's open it back. Open, close, open, close. So now we can open it, close it, and so on. Also, what if I will equip this item during this container opened, and also I should not be able to store this item in itself, but I think that we're not able. So let's, for example, equip it here. It should disappear. So let's close it, but it should disappear automatically. And we're gonna do that is we have to understand what happens when our item is equipped. Well, how we gonna do that? We can open our refresh inventory function here, and which is called every time that when inventory updated, and add a sequence node before for each loop. Let's add it. And here we're gonna check if at least one of equipped items is shown as a container now, so we can get our inventory system and get slots. Get all slots. So what do we have to do? We have to check if we have to loop through each slot. So let's add for each loop. We're gonna check if container items, get container items, contains this item. So it will mean that an inventory is shown for a slot that is already equipped. Well, if branch is true, what we're gonna do next? We gonna, so if it is true, we gonna create a local variable and call it local pending close widgets and local pending close items. And for first pending close widgets, let's make a type VB container item. No, not container, VB open container item, VB opened container. Both of them should be an array. True, we're gonna get these container items. If container items contains this item, we're gonna call find item. And we have to find the item to know an index. Well, after we have found an index, we're gonna get local pending close widgets and local pending close items and add to both of them. Add. We're gonna add this array element as an item to item array, and we're gonna get shown containers get at this index to this array. Well, after for each loop is completed, we're gonna get one of these arrays, get, and make reverse for each loop. So we're gonna go from back to beginning and remove items from back to beginning to not break indices. So starting from here, we're gonna call on container closed and pass widget here. And for item, we're gonna get container items get at array index and pass it here. Well, now let's check. Open, equip, and container disappears. And equip, open. And what if I will have two shorts? For example, I will open. Oh, whoa. Okay, equip. We have one more issue. Open, and I'm gonna equip this one. This container doesn't disappear. If I will equip this one, container disappears. Well, I think that's it for this video, and in the next video we will fix issues that we have found in this video. Thanks for watching, hope it will help someone.